Okay, good morning. Today's class, Spiritual Discernment, November the 17th, class number 443. I want to start with giving a definition of spiritual discernment, and that is, what is spiritual discernment? It means to understand or know something through the power of spirit. It includes perceiving the true character of people and the source and meaning of spiritual manifestations. I thought that was, when I read that, that was so powerful, especially the part that says it includes perceiving the true character of people. So often you hear people talk about people's character. And most of the describing that they come up with about people and their character is not through true spiritual discernment. I know people who have written books about character, but it's always aligning people's personality with what they think from a personal standpoint or a personal sense standpoint, what they think character is. You hear people say all the time, that, he was a good man. This person was a good lady, good woman. When in reality, Jesus said there's none good. There's not a good person. He said, why you call me good? Because you're not discerning what I am spiritually. You're looking at the things that I do. And you think that as a person who you visibly see, and it's not being revealed to you who I truly am, you think that's a good person, a good man. But there are no good men. There's only God. And God is appearing as man. And it's up to us to spiritually discern the true character of every man. I don't care who they are. And I pulled up 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and I want to read you 9 through 12. It's amazing. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. But it is written, the eye has not seen, and the ear has not heard, and the heart of man has not conceived the things which God has prepared for those who love him. Verse 10, but God has revealed them to us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For what man knows the mind of man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, no man knows the mind of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God. Now check this out now, that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. I was like, I've never seen that like I see it today. We have been given the Spirit so that we can discern the true character of every man. Well, the true character of every man is God. But we get stymied by looking at what it appears that God is and what that man is, and we separate the two. We honestly look at people's personality, and we separate that person from God, and what we get is what we get. It's like Forrest Gump says, like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. And so you get what you consider to be a good man. You get what you consider to be, well, he's kind of good, or she's all right, but, or my mother used to say, this person takes spells. I used to laugh. He takes spells. Sometimes my son will say that, and we laugh. But we have to understand that we have the Spirit of God in us to discern the true character, God, in every man. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people to do the right thing. Well, what is that? We're looking for people to say the right thing. What is that? We're looking for people to act in accordance with what we think ought to be the right thing. Yet, God is saying we're not depending on our spirit. And just like Job, when all of the sons of God came and presented themselves before the Lord, and Satan came too. Well, what is Satan? Satan is that thing that says, oh, this person is not good. This person is not that. Well, and God goes, well, have you considered Job? Well, you got a hedge around him. And then God says, well, you know what? Do what you want with him. He is never going to curse me. But do what you want, but you can't take his life. Well, why can't he take his life? Because life can't be taken. God is life, and you can't take God. And God is looking at you, and God is looking at me, but God is seeing God and discerning the reality of what we truly are. So I wrote down a couple of questions which answer a whole lot of things. 1, where is God? Answer, everywhere. Okay, then, but where is the world? It's in God. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. So the world is in God. That's why Jesus said we are in the world, but not of it. We're not of what we see from a sense perspective. We are of the world which is in God, which is the kingdom, which is wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, omniscience. Then, well, what is God? God is the truth of everything, the pure character of everything. Now, this is a big one. This is going to be hard, and this is I can, as Jim Rosemaker used to say, I can smell the wood burning before I ever even say this one. Is God a creator? I had a struggle with that for a while. Is God a creator? And finally, I had to come upon the answer, and that is no. God is not a creator. There's no such thing as creation. Well, why not? Well, for God to create something would mean that something was missing. And we know that God is completeness. So how could anything be missing? You say, yeah, but, the Bible says in the beginning God created. Well, that word created throws you off because it makes you think that there was a point where something didn't exist. And how can that be if God is omniscient, omnipresence, omnipotence? So there never was a time that God didn't exist, and there never was a time that everything didn't exist. And so therefore, there cannot be a creation. All there can be is a revealing by the Spirit of what is. That really, really throws you for a loop. But, time and meditation will bring to you the reality of there is no such thing as sometime. There is no such thing as back in the day. There's no such thing as a human being, a mortal being. It's like that was Moses writing. Some say it was a guy named Second Isaiah. I like the way Joel Goldsmith put it in one of his books. I can't remember which one it was. He said, but if the creation was done in Genesis 1, then why did they redo it all over again in Genesis 2? That brings you to, okay, so in Genesis 3, is there really a man who fell from God? No. Is there really a woman who caused a man to sin? No. Is there really a knowledge, a tree of the knowledge of good and evil? No. All of that's nothing. Those are suggestions. Again, like Goldsmith puts it, you can be running on the desert, and the next thing you know, you look up and you can see what? Illusion. You can see the semblance of an oasis, but there won't be one there. We were kids. We used to be playing out on the highway when there was a long stretch in front of our house, and on those really 90 and 100-degree days, if you were on one end of it, if you looked far enough down this straight strip, which appeared to be almost a mile, you could look down there, and it would look like water was running across the road. And we know no water was running across the road, but it looked like it. Why? Because there is a Satan that comes to a sense perception of being separate and apart from what God is, and it shows you all kinds of things. And you're saying, well, are you telling me then that this stuff that we're seeing, these mass killings, all of this kind of stuff, the evil that's going on all over the world, you telling me that that's not real? No, it's not. Those are suggestions that are suggesting that God is something separate and apart from all of that. And that is something that we have to be able to spiritually discern the truth and character of it. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And we have to realize that. I think what really helped me the most is this stuff has been hanging on me ever since I had the dream that I saw my wife at the bottom of a hill, and I ran down there to go give her a hug. But the closer I got, I started seeing nothing but light. And when I got to her, I couldn't discern a body. I couldn't discern a face. I couldn't discern anything. I've told you guys this once before. It was just pure, brilliant light. And that made me go back to, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And I'm like, and God says, let there be light. I thought God said, I am the living God, or I am that I am. So I am the light, and you are the light, and you have always been the light, and you can never, ever be anything else. That kind of starts bringing to a close a trying to fix situations out here in the world. You know, you find yourself saying, you see all these people saying, we're going to come together and we're going to fight for the American people, and we're going to fight for this and fight for that, when in reality, we're supposed to be fighting a good fight of faith. I spoke with somebody yesterday, and they said, things are just out of sorts, and, I get something, and, they constantly ask me for stuff like, give me a scripture that I can read that'll make me feel better because I'm frustrated and this, and this. And my mind went to, yeah, but the moment you read that, what you're not discerning is Romans 5. Romans 5. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God. Well, I don't care what's going on around you, you still have peace with God, knowing that the trying of your faith is working your patience. And I know that most of the people who struggle with certain issues and problems and trying to fix things, I can only look at them like God is all there is to you, and God understands this. And this is my spiritual discernment of the true character of who you are. And when you least expect it, there's going to be a crack in your armor, and the light is going to start to shine. Love one another as I loved you. That's what Jesus said. Do unto others. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God only. And it just pops open in you that whoever I am looking at, I'm looking at a revelation of God and not what appears to my senses. You see, God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. There's only one mind, and that mind is looking at itself and discerning the truth and living forever. Mind and the manifestation of mind is one. Mind and its idea is automatic, simultaneous. There's only now. That's where we started back in January, and this scripture will not leave me alone. It's in Ecclesiastes, and it's the one that one is 9 through 11, and the other one is 3, 14, and 15. The one in 9 and 11 is where they're talking about you can't add anything to God. God is always complete, always perfect. That which is to be has already been. That which has been is now. God will require those who have persecuted you. The only thing that's persecuted you is your sensual or senses that keep telling you that you are a victim of something. That's persecution. People are not persecuting you because what happens is God discerns the true character of the person, and the person immediately feels it when your conviction is, I don't hold anything against you. A person called me and said something to me that was completely out of sorts, and I said, this person just keeps calling me all the time and always wants something, but when I don't totally agree, then they jump whatever it is I was saying, or they say something that's, over the top. Let's just leave it like that. And yesterday I said, Father, I realize that you are appearing as every person. And whatever appears to be some kind of an error, I have to look through that. So I'm going to spiritually, I'm just going to discern that wasn't you talking to me like that. Do you guys know that within about 15 or 20 minutes of that, the person called me back and said, I want to apologize. I said, wow. And the little voice inside was like, well, what did you expect? You realize that God does not talk to people in that type manner. God is not out to hurt people. God is not destructive. I don't care what you're looking at. I don't care. This is on the heels of some guy down at the University of Virginia killing or appearing to kill 3 people, and somebody else got hurt that survived. But in reality, we have to discern spiritually that the character of that guy and the ones who got shot is God. God is all there is. And we don't grow from that. We just lift up beyond it and know that that's just a bad movie that we're looking at. There's nothing but God, nothing but light. And I know for a fact that the more we pursue this line of thinking, the more we pursue this line of action, because God is the only one who acts, as we continue in that direction, we honestly will know that all of that stuff that has been happening or appearing to happen to us that we've been taking personally is going to shift. And then you will be like Jesus, discerning spiritually the character, and people will begin to be healed. What does he say? What does it say? Is any among you sick? Let them call for the elders of the church, and they will pray the prayer of faith, and God will heal them. Well, why call for the elders of the church? Because the elders, those who are oldest in the faith, will be able to spiritually discern the true character of who you are. And the light will go on. And the people that they pray for, the prayer of faith, what's going to happen? It'll either be an immediate appearance change, or it'll change over a couple of days, or what have, but it has to, because God is perfect, always perfect, and will never, ever change. So it appears to me that we must be about our Father's business. That's what Jesus said. He said, well, how am I to be about his Father's business? You know, I used to think that it would be writing songs about God, preaching, sharing with people. I'm about the Father's business. And if they accept it, cool. And if they don't accept it, cool. But I did the Father's business. I have come to know that is not the Father's business. The Father's business is, I must know the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Free of what? Personally, using the senses to make a judgment about the appearance in the world. You will be free of doing that. God cannot be anyone who breaks the commandments. Now remember, God is appearing as man. Man appears to break commandments. So what do we have to do? Be about the Father's business. God, we know this is not you who is breaking commandments. We know sometimes it gets worse. It looks like something that is devastating. However, I have this spirit in me that can discern the truth, the true character of God in man. I wrote a post the other day that said healing, I'm going to generalize it. It says healing is really God erasing erroneous thoughts and appearances from our mind, just as we erase writings on a chalkboard. In other words, that's spiritual discernment. Every time you look and you discern the true character of a person as God, the kingdom of God within them, you just erased the error, thought, appearance that's going on in your mind, because you don't have a mind for that to go on in. God only knows God, the truth. And as we erase these writings on a chalkboard, we realize that we are using what I call spiritual discernment to know the truth, to be about the Father's business, not know about the truth. See, that's what a lot of us listen and we hear people and they quote scriptures and they say all kinds of writings, and the Bible is God's infallible word. Which Bible? You know, the Buddhists have a book that they read from. The Indians have a book that they read from. I mean, the Eastern cultures and what have you. Some of it's written in Aramaic, Hebrew, Sanskrit. Which one? Everything that is the truth about God is already in you. That's why we spend the time meditating day and night. Sometimes I don't even have to work at trying to meditate. These scriptures are just hanging on. They're hanging on. They're just almost haunting in a good way. They wake you up. You dream about them all night. You feel it. You know it's the truth. So, with that in mind, let's ask ourselves another question. What are humanity's main problems? And when we know what these are, we know God cannot be these problems. God appears as man, but man creates these inventions. When we see these appearances, we have to know the truth. We have to be about the Father's business. God is consciousness, Father. I am consciousness, Son. And these are the two in the house that agree. There is no hidden agenda. I'm not trying to be one with God so that I can get something. I am being what God made me, one with God. And that's it. That's enough. I remember the other day I said, well, I am enough. Because I am one with God, I am enough. I don't have to be anything. I already am this. You see, there can't be anything that is opposed to or anything that is contrary to God, because God is all. And God is the only thing that is appearing. Joel Goldsmith used a beautiful word. I can't remember what book that was in either, but he says we must reinterpret. We have to reinterpret what it is that we are looking at. In Isaiah, it says, all shall know me. When? Right now. There ain't no coming into this. You know me right now. And this hit me yesterday. I wrote it down and thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. God cannot be unenlightened individuals. And again, I wrote beside it, reinterpret. God can't be an unenlightened individual. God is light and cannot change. He's immutable. So what is this unenlightened individual? Nothing. An appearance that's being picked up by this thing that we call personal senses. And because we're picking it up with our personal sense, we can't just hide it under a rug. We can't just ignore it. We know the truth. We spiritually discern that God is right here, right now, not hiding. And with that, I realized in just that one statement, and just realizing that if God is right here, right now, that's how a guy like Neville came into his revelation of what imagination really is. Because there's only one mind, and God is that mind, and God is certainly not mortal, and that mind is not mortal, then that mind can imagine a form. And the mind, the imagination, the idea, the form, the desire, that's just one. And it's all simultaneous. It's one. Right now, God, consciousness, recognizes and knows itself. God is looking at God. We're walking out here in this earth, and God is looking at God. And most of us are looking at what we appear to be, and we are, with our senses, making a judgment about what it is, and then we try to do something about it if it's discordant. We try to fix it. Sometimes some appear to tell lies to oh, no, I was just, really? No. God is God, and God is looking at itself. God is knowing the truth about itself. And so we know that God is consciousness, and we are aware of God, which is consciousness. Let me let you in on a little secret. The consciousness that God is and the consciousness that you are can only be aware of God. It can only be aware of perfection. It can only be aware of completeness. It can only be aware that it is unchanging. I went on yesterday to take a look at Exodus chapter 23, verse 25. For the first time, I really, really understood this. It says, I will remove sickness from the camp. And add the word, now take the word Exodus. What does that mean? I'm getting out. I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm leaving what? Sickness, disease, sin, fear, unbelief, doubt, poverty, lack. I'm leaving all this stuff. Why? Because it's nothing. What was Egypt? Nothing. What was bondage? Nothing. They had to leave because God was looking at God. Now, we can draw it all out in the story, and I'm not telling you not to read the Bible. I'm telling you to discern spiritually what's really there. Know the difference in an allegory and the reality of spiritual truth. Anything you read that Jesus is saying is not allegorical. Job, that's allegory. You know, if you look at it, it says Hagar had a son of bondage, and Abraham's wife, Sarah, she had the true son of God. What does that mean? That means that there were what did he call them? Paul called them the two covenants. Well, you can't have a covenant of bondage because it changes. But the covenant, the true and everlasting covenant, Jesus Christ, that I amness of him is the covenant. And we all have that same covenant. It can't change. So therefore, when you look at Mark 11:22 and discern what's really there, anything Jesus said was not an allegory. When Jesus says, have faith in God, what he's saying is what? Have your conviction that God is all. There is nothing else. Then he says what? Whosoever shall say to the mountain, be removed. Well, it's God speaking to the mountain. Whatever you desire, when you pray, believe, you receive, it's God who is praying. It's God who is looking at his own idea and manifesting it right then because it's already in existence. When we go back in Aramaic and looked up the true definition of faith in the Aramaic text, faith is the conviction of that which you expect. It dawned on me, well, what do I expect? I expect a revelation. It says because it was the substance, the understanding. Remember, spiritual discernment is what we're talking about. Faith was the understanding of those things that are already in existence, not going to be in existence, already are in existence, and it is the revelation of things not seen. So our whole life is based on living a revelation. We expect the revelation, we live the revelation, and it takes on some kind of a form in what we call the three-dimensional world because we got this sense of sense hanging on us that's making us see certain things out here. But in reality, we know that all there is God. All there is truth. All there is perfection. We can't be anything else. God is all there is. God is looking at God. God in you is discerning the true character of that which is your brother and your sister. God does not see evil. God's eyes are too pure to behold iniquity. We are the sons of God, looking through the eyes of God, being one with God, and knowing the truth, being about our Father's business, and that truth is a revelation. And because it is a revelation, then we live it out by faith. Amen. And so it is.